Tonight, President Biden is heading overseas with a bleak new assessment of his political standing just ahead of the 2024 election. CNN's exclusive new poll reveals the scope of voter concerns and discontent with the 46th president of the United States, including within his own Democratic Party. CNN's chief national affairs correspondent, Jeff Zeleny, is here with us to break it all down for us. Take us inside these numbers, Jeff.
Well, if we look at the president's approval rating, first and foremost, look at this, 39% of Americans approve of the president. That means 6 in 10 Americans, 61% disapprove of the president's performance. Not a good sign as he's heading into his reelection. But if you look inside this a little bit more, this is perhaps one of the most shocking findings in this poll. Democrats only here. These are only Democrats being surveyed. 67% say they would like to see a different candidate. Only 33% say President Biden. This is certainly a sign of discontent with him. It's not necessarily that they're looking for someone else more specifically, but this is a referendum on him. One of the biggest advantages, though, certainly going into this reelection for the president, he does not have a serious primary challenge. If he would, that, of course, would be an issue, as history has shown. But this is something that he clearly needs to work on in his own party. One of the biggest concerns, we asked an open-ended question here, again, among Democratic and Democratic-leaning voters. What are your concerns about the president? Age. 49% of respondents, again, an open-ended question said age. Onto mental sharpness, health, the ability to do your job, and popularity, 6%. But that age question really sums up a lot of his challenges going into his reelection.
So what do these numbers mean, bottom line right now, for Biden's efforts to get himself reelected?
Bottom line, these numbers mean that he has a lot of work to do. These are alarm bells. The White House, of course, is very well aware of the challenges. They do their own polling. They've seen other surveys. But if we look at the economic conditions, this is something that the White House thinks will actually help him in the long term. All of the legislation he's done, from the infrastructure bill to the Inflation Reduction Act to lowering prescription drugs, but still, how have Biden's policies affected U.S. economic conditions? 58% of Americans believe that they have worsened them. So talking to White House advisors today, they believe that they have a messaging challenge of trying to tell Americans that the economic policies have actually benefited them. But that is the challenge here. If Americans don't feel it, it is hard to tell them that. But inflation numbers are still high. It's leveled off, no doubt, but prices are high. But when you look at the choice for president, this is a stark reminder. 47% for Donald Trump, 46% for Joe Biden. Of course, he has to get through a Republican primary contest. He has many, many challenges on his own. No clear leader here, of course. This is within the margin of error. Wolf, this is a reminder, a deeply divided country, a pessimistic mood hanging over this. So for all that the president has done to try and brand Republicans as MAGA and extremists, we are effectively where we left off the last time, a deeply divided electorate. Again, though, many challenges facing President Biden, and President Biden is trying to make this a choice election, certainly not a referendum on him. But all of these findings certainly show the challenges are steep, facing him 14 months from now, the general election.
Very steep.
That's a hilarious clip. And you guys see,
did you see it before now, or this is brand new, fresh? Okay, good.
I haven't seen that. You listen how this guy mentioned how Biden has a messaging problem. It's not the message. Like, what can Biden say? What word jiu-jitsu can you come up with to trick people into thinking they're doing better than they actually are? You know what I mean?
You know what he's saying? What he's admitting, Nick, is that they're saying that we're not going to do anything. We just need to keep hammering the same exact thing because, Nick, believe it or not, some people, it will help because all propaganda is repetition. That's why you turn on cable news shows. Every single hour, they're covering the same stories with the same talking points, just a different host. So it's laughable, Nick, but do you think this is going to cause the Democrats to change course? Do you think, it isn't a democracy, right? And your constituents are saying 66 out of 10 are saying, oh, we don't want this guy. Do you think they're going to keep him, or you think they're going to say, fuck you guys, vote or die?
There's these polls where Democrats say we don't want Joe Biden to be the new nominee. And the response of the establishment is, oh, you sweet. Summer child. You think we care what you want? But this is the point I'm making in the clip. Like, you're not gonna gaslight people into thinking the economy is doing well. And what Crystal and Cal is doing, you're gonna see this throughout the debate with Breonna Joy Gray, is they mention all this fucking insignificant garbage. But my argument, and you guys see that Crystal and Kyle do not have your best interests at heart. If people list all these random neoliberal means tested bullshit that Biden did, and they mention unions on this bullshit, let these people know that unless your life have changed, unless your material needs have gotten better, you owe nobody your support. I don't give a fuck what list you point out. Like, I did this, we did this. Did your life get better or not? If it did not, you don't owe anyone your support.
Yeah.
And if you think that's too harsh, then maybe start with the means tested bullshit. How about we have some institutional reform that will actually change people's life? This idea that we supposed to, like, oh man, according to statistics, the GDP is up. I know I'm struggling, but since GDP is up, I guess I'll vote for Biden. Fuck that.
That's literally what they think. That's literally
the GDP of your house. The only thing that matters. But sorry, CJ, go ahead. I know you want to try me. Go ahead.
I'm just laughing because that shit is so hilarious. You don't know how many times I thought of that very point at my own house by myself, and I just start cracking up because that shit is so freaking ridiculous. I'm gonna love when Nico gets here. But back to the clip. I mean, we're talking about it anyway. But back to the clip, Nick. One thing, do you know most channels didn't cover that shit? Most of them didn't cover it. CNN had to cover it. It's their poll. You know what I'm saying? They had to cover it. It was one-day coverage. You know who did not cover each point of this poll? Morning Joe decided not to cover it. Joy-Ann Reid did not cover it. Who else? The girl Alex Wagner. None of them have covered this poll at all. Nicole Wallace, you can just keep naming them.
Dude, they began filling report cards left and right, CJ.
Yeah.
Their report cards have been horrible. There was another poll that showed the vast majority of Americans, especially independents, believe that the Trump allegations is a political scam. like when they forced to read these polls on air, it's so uncomfortable. And that's why they push for censorship and dismantling the First Amendment. The biggest criticism that AOC has, for example, of Facebook, is that Facebook don't censor more. Like, the ruling class is upset because they're losing the narrative war. And that's why you had the Biden administration that was caught illegally coordinating with social media companies. It was found by the Supreme Court. They was caught illegally coordinating with social media companies to censor dissident voices on the Ukraine war, for example. On COVID-19 and mandates, for example. Be careful, you two. We just said. We just said the word. We just said the word, you two. But that's why they crack down this in, because they're losing the narrative war. They're losing the messaging war. And that's why whenever they got reporting these polls, that's the one time they are forced to step out of their liberal bubble. And it's Joe Rogan's fault. You know what I mean? It's RBN fault.
Another thing that's kind of, to me, that's compounding this is that, actually it's shown in this poll, because they actually asked him about his age, and I'm understand age is a pseudonym for his mental health. Instead of saying how he clearly has dementia, they're using the word age to sort of substitute for that. And the reason that fails is because when you compare it to Trump, only 3 years younger, Nick, he literally has 20 points or less, 20 points more less. So Biden is like in the 70 percentile as far as age. Like, I got a concern for
I know. I saw the poll.
Health. And then Trump is like in the 50s or
and you saw Morning Joe coverage of this. They were like, how can Americans be so dumb? They say they are upset about Biden's age, but Trump is only 3-4 years younger. Fam. There was a Trump rally the other day where this motherfucker gave a 1 hour speech, and then there was like a 20-minute segment of it where he went straight off teleprompter. And CJ, the only reason I know this because the liberal media was reporting on it, and they were using it to talk about how unhinged Trump was. They're like, hey, here Trump off the cut for 15-20 minutes. He tossed his teleprompter. Trump is so crazy. Motherfucker, can you guys imagine Biden speaking for 2 minutes without a teleprompter? Trump gave an hour speech, and like a third of it was him just riffing. So the concern is not age, as you said, CJ. It's mental acuity. It's how sharp you are. So that's why they use age as a way to filibuster that primary concern. But I will also say, and we mentioned this many times in RBN, you guys realize the age criticism is the best thing that happened to Biden. The best possible thing that could happen to Biden is Americans being concerned about his age. Why do you think CNN cover it all the time? Why do you think MSNBC will cover it all the time? The number one thing they want is for people to think that the number one criticism of Joe Biden is his age. That's why they go to it. Look at these ages, Gen Z, millennial, boom. Look at these people that are just ages against the boomers. You guys know we're making it's all about age war. But I told you guys many times, that's the least of our concern regarding Joe Biden. And I put this list together. I told you, CJ, I was going to update this list here soon.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about Joe Biden, and this is just a mini segment, when we talk about Joe Biden, we talk about how the evils of Biden. Like, you lose track of it. And I think it's important to go through this before the Crystal and Cal debate with Breonna George Gray. You can see how ridiculous it is for anyone who considers themselves to be part of Bernie Sanders' left to apologize for this guy. So, if you guys be patient with me, I'm gonna lead out this list. I typed this list. I woke up early like I always do. I'm a grandpa. I always wake up early. So I was twisting and turning my bed. I was seeing the debate a lot of the Bernie Sanders Democrat left were having with the real radical third party revolutionary left. And they was talking about fucking nonsense when it comes to voting for Joe Biden. What happened to being an advocate of human rights? What happened to being an advocate for peace? So you bringing up and this is what Crystal and Cal did all the time, a little bit spoiler. From the little bit I saw, they will bring, well, do you know Joe Biden did this? Cal was like, why don't you guys give Biden enough credit? What Biden did is completely irrelevant. The bills he passed has been completely irrelevant because this is the evil as human rights advocates that we should fight against. Crystal and Cal, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, the entire Bernie media industrial complex, they are weak on corruption. Can you guys repeat after me? Because I've been seeing a lot of people go back and forth with these people. That's all you have to say. Crystal, Cal, Bree, this is what you should have said to these people. You guys are weak on corruption. At what point do we accept corruption as an acceptable flawed trait? Cal and Crystal like, yeah, you guys got some issues with Biden. Yeah, you guys are a little bit concerned about corruption. No, that's the fucking thing. So well, I would say, like, hey, I understand that you weak on corruption, but I care about corruption. I know that, Cal, you're weak on war crimes. You're weak on imperialism, but I care. I really want you guys to adopt that term. Because I have, and that it freaks them out because you calling them out on their lack of moral consistency, right? So I see you, Nico. I'm going to bring you in here after this. I would love to get your take on this. But I'm going to read this out. This is the reasons why you don't vote for Joe Biden. He's a Nord Stream pipeline bomber, the biggest eco-terrorist in human history. And I'm going to go through each one of these fast. Proved of the Willow Project, broke the rail strike, gave federal contract to union busters, sent COVID-19 relief to the police, funded ICE to record levels, $6 billion more than Trump. You guys know RBN is like the only channel that reports on that, by the way. Illegally pressuring social media companies to crack down on free speech, fighting proxy war with Russia by sending weapons to Nazis in Ukraine, stealing billions from Afghanistan, starving their people. We're going to get to that soon because you guys see that Cal loves to give Biden credit for Afghanistan. So hold that thought. Absolutely unhinged China policy. And CJ, I typed absolutely unhinged China policy because I didn't know how to describe it. And like
it's so much.
Like, there's so much to say on China. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just say he's unhinged. You guys get it. But you can literally make like 10 bullet points out of this one alone. But I didn't want to pad the list. I'm like, all right, let's keep it simple. Let's move on. Send weapons to Taiwan. Sent nuclear submarines to Australia. I want to add, he also sent nuclear submarines to South Korea. Big shout out to Didi, my friend. I didn't know that until she sent that to me. So, he did this too. I'm like, what? How did I miss that? But that's another thing that I'm going to start mentioning. He sent nuclear submarines to South Korea. Fucking psychopath. The Hunter Biden pay to play corruption. Once again, I got this far before the list. I got this far into the list before I even mentioned Hunter Biden, by the way. Hiring Neera Tanden as the White House domestic policy advisor, hiring Anthony Blinken, hiring Lloyd Austin, I will also add hiring Elliot Abrams. I forgot that at the time. Full-fledged support of the genocidal state of Israel, pushing the privatization of water. I just covered that in the hotspot video. His insulting Maui response, said he would veto Medicare for all, and most importantly, Kamala Harris may be president. Like, so I want you guys to understand that if you take just one of these things, that would be enough for me not to vote for him. I'll include a few more that some people remind me of. He stole Iranian and Syrian oil. I'm gonna cover that soon. Escalated the Cuban embargo. You had Cuba that literally said that no one is enforcing the Cuban embargo harder than the Joe Biden administration. Actively trying to kill Julian Assange. Bomb Somalia. Cut SNAP benefits. And hire Victoria Nuland. But according to Count Crystal, we had some disagreements. Just a little bit.
What's up, Nico?
What's popping, Nico?
What's good, man? Y'all was going in. I almost didn't want to stop you. That list is crazy, though. That list is crazy because, like, when you're listening to Biden, Kyle, and
you said it right. You said it right.
Right. His boy had Biden's nuts in his mouth so much lately, he is literally starting to become him in a lot of people's minds.